Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
Hi, my name is Adrienne, and I am thrilled and honored to welcome you to season 4 of the Black Women in Europe podcast. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 4 years of telling our stories, shining our lights, and keeping it real. Do they even say that anymore? Anyway, we're glad you're here and keep coming back. So I'm so excited. I spent the morning researching Liz Okoh, and I am officially in love. Another girl crush announcement today, and we have her from the UK for our season of healing. She is a self-love and women's empowerment expert through art, and we are here to get some love today. Welcome, Liz.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
Oh, I'm thrilled that you're here. You're a photographer. You're multi-talented. And this is one thing I admire about you. You know, you didn't just figure out you're good at one thing. You're good at several and you do them so well. Tell us where you are and how you discovered your talent and how you're using them to help women.
Awesome, thank you. So, I'll just start off by saying I'm a disciplinary artist, and right now I sort of focus on writing books and photography. And in terms of photography, I specialize in documentary, boudoir, and conceptual portraits. And how I found out about this, I think it's quite interesting because what I do now, I'd always loved doing it as hobbies when I was like younger, but I just never really gave it much of a thought to be a career. And maybe that's because of like the society where I was raised in as well. I grew up in Lagos. I left when I was 17. And so there really, and I was doing well in school. And once you're doing well in school, they sort of push you towards the sciences. So I would always write here and there in secret, or I would like, take pictures of friends or just capturing events in my life. But it was just something fun, something I enjoyed doing. But at university, I sort of dared myself to apply for a writing job, not really thinking anything will come out of it, but I was really passionate about what that company was doing. And I got the job. I was like, oh wow, so I'm actually good.
Yeah, exactly. That was external confirmation. That's amazing.
Yes,
First
exactly.
application is to get the job. That's unusual.
Yeah, yeah. Because all the while I just thought, I just didn't think, to be honest, I just didn't think I was good enough. I just always loved creativity though. But after getting that job and then writing and just getting the feedback from readers on the platform, I was like, well, these are thousands of people who don't know me because I'm obviously working for a company. So they don't actually know the writer, but they have all this positive feedback about, the pieces. So I was like, okay, I'm actually good. And that gave me confidence. And through that, I decided, you know what, I need to start exploring more of this part of myself. And then I launched a blog. And then through that, I started doing more travel photography and I just fell in love. I was just like, oh my gosh, like literally, this has been under my nose all this time. And I just didn't really explore it seriously. And I think as soon as I had that click in my head and decided to also pursue photography, professionally, everything just fell into place. And I've just been like moving, forward since then.
Okay, now several things I want to talk about. Now, first, before I forget, I'm wearing this wig. I call this my Tina Turner wig because you're women's empowerment,
Mhm.
right? Self-care and an artist. And if anybody knows Tina's story, we know that she was able to heal herself, get herself out of a horrible situation. Her talent was phenomenal, and she became a symbol for women's empowerment. Let's talk about your book, The Returnees. No, is that did I say it right?
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
now tell us about that. I love the premise. And is that about your personal experience? Tell us about that.
No, it's not. I think I've heard that a bit because I write it so much where it's almost like someone you could know in actual real life, but no. So the returnees is about three British Nigerians who moved from London to Lagos. And the book covers the first year of them taking that trip back home and just, their exploits, what they get up to, trying to find themselves, understand the culture and just pursue their dreams as well. But then in between all of that, there's this big dilemma. And one of the protagonists sort of has to uncover, what has really gone on. So that's sort of like the whole premise of it. But in terms of the inspiration, I'm very much like an observer of like, I've always loved, observing people, observing society. And at the time I finished university, I was writing for that company and had that confidence. I was like, oh, wow, I can actually write. And I was like, well, I can become a writer then. I would love to write a book. And so during those couple of months after university, I was just thinking, what could I write a book on? Nothing really came to mind and nothing sort of was the it I wanted to write. So I just left it. But at that stage in my life, I was now very much open to entrepreneurship, exploring my creativity as well. So I'd studied outside of London for university. So I came back to London and it just opened this world of like, adulthood. There was like networking events and things like that. And I was meeting other like diasporians who had this vision and this dream of going back, home to Africa, the continent one day and like starting businesses and like, sort of empowering people there in their own ways. And through just observing all of this, having these interactions, and like I said, I had a blog, so I started interviewing some of them, and social media was, rising as well. And so I was seeing, oh wow, there's actually like the creative industry in Lagos, especially, is really growing. Things are happening, in the fashion industry. We had some designers come over to London for Fashion Week. And all of that was just like, enthralling to me and really exciting. And I was like, how about I have characters that, explore all of this? So that whole different inspirations and observing and through my interactions with other people as well, just brought on this idea. And all of a sudden I had these three strong characters in my head. And I was like, okay, one's gonna explore the fashion industry. Afrobeats at that time, I started
Yeah.
in 2000 and the idea came late 2014. So this was before the big boom now. But like I said, I'm very observant. I could see there was a trend already. And I was like, wouldn't it be amazing this young, British Nigerian guy wants to get into the industry and decides to go back to Lagos, where these
Yeah.
artists are from, to also, try to spur on his own journey. So that was the second character. And then we have something called the National Youth Service in Nigeria, which like everyone undertakes once they've graduated. For the first year after university, you sort of serve the country by like,
Oh,
they post you to different
I
states.
like that idea.
Yeah, yeah. It was good when it started. Now I have my issues with it, but the
Yeah.
the whole concept and
The
idea,
concept is good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you basically serve communities in different states. So it's like, how about one of the character who is sort of like on this self journey trying to figure out her path in life, her parents gets fed up and there's this thing, I don't know if it's the same for US Nigerians, but there's this thing in the UK where naughty children get like, threatened, like if you misbehave one more time, we're gonna send you back home.
Uh-huh.
For this character, hers is quite delayed and happens when she's 21 years old. So the father is like, I'm tired of you just sitting at home, not having a direction in life and knowing what to do. You need to go back, go do that, you'd say.
But hear
Yeah.
that on your
Yeah. Sorry, what? Yeah, oh, her dad's sort of like, okay, you know what? You go to the capital. So the capital is different from Lagos. The capital of Nigeria is Abuja. So you're gonna go there, go stay with my brother and his family, and you're gonna do that youth service, and hopefully that gives you some sense and some direction. And so she's sort of like banished, and those are like the three main characters in my novel. And they sort of coincide and meet at like their connecting flight. So they all leave from London to Milan, and then there's a connecting flight from there to Lagos. So yeah, so that's sort of how they meet. But then of course they separate again, go their own ways, and the novel starts to like, explore their different journeys.
It sounds fantastic. I'm hooked. And you have it was published in, was it 2020?
Yes, yes, it was in 2020.
So we're waiting to see what happens after their first year. You said it explores their first year. Do you think you'll pick it back up?
You know what? I've had a few people ask me that. That wasn't the intention, but with the way the story is, it can very much, yeah. So, interestingly enough, a couple of days ago, actually, in the shower, some of these ideas just come to me, and I'm just thinking about things. I was like, you know what? Maybe t I will explore 10 years later what happens, because not to give anything away, but the way the novel ends as well, there's like, some serious things that could go on with some of the characters. So yeah, maybe let's see. I have some other book ideas which I sort of want to work in the next couple of years. So we'll see how that goes.
Fantastic. Do you have a publisher that I know your first book was published. Do you when you publish a book with a publisher, do you maintain a relationship? Because you said you have other ideas that they would be open to looking at future manuscripts.
Yeah.
How does that
So
work? Oh, great.
I think it may depend from writer to writer, but with mine, with the contract I got, they do have the opportunity to look at the next thing I write and have like the first go at saying if they would like, to publish me on that or not. And then of course I can decide to go with them again if I want to, or I can decide to go with someone else.
Fantastic. Okay, see, choices. Okay. So you published the book. What other work were you doing when you were publishing the book? Because writing a book, that's full time. I mean, you know what I mean? Are you writing a book while you're doing something else? How was that process for you?
Yeah, it definitely full time. And people who work and write, I don't know how they do it, but I think that's why for some people it takes them years to complete a novel because just having that concentration, it's quite difficult to juggle both. So with me, I before I left, because I did go back to Lagos actually for a couple of months, just I really wanted that lived-in experience and write from a place of experience and not just stereotype things I was writing in the book. So I
Mm.
saved up a lot and then left work, traveled for 3 months, came back to London and then started writing. And so I would say I started writing for 4 months, like full time. I would wake up nine, do the whole 9 to 5, have my break, continue and then clock out for 4 months. And I was more than halfway done with the novel. But then at that period, my funds were dwindling. So I was like, oh, okay. I cannot be broke. I
Yeah.
went back to work. I was hoping I would also still be able to write, but it was just not moving along. And so after another couple of months, saved up again, left that job. And then another two
Wow.
months, I then finished the novel. So yeah, so that was my own process because I'm pretty much a finisher. I don't like to have ideas in my head and they sort of like tormenting you, right? And guilt tripping you. So for me, it's like I need to get it out. So I just needed to get it done as quickly as possible.
So you write because you have a story to tell. Do you care if anybody reads it? How important is that part?
Yeah, I think you know what? I think I've learned a lot about what you've said because when I was writing it, because I was so passionate about it, and you just think even if it's just one person, you say that because you have these hopes of you don't know how it would do, but you just want to get it out there. And so I had that as well, where I'd said, oh, if it's just a handful of people, but it coming out and then I started to have that hunger of, no, I want this to succeed. I want it to do well. So it's no longer 10 people. I'm like, no, I put a lot into this. More than
Yeah.
10 people better read this book. So yeah, so I think
Yeah.
that it's a human nature though, isn't it? We want to succeed in what we do. So yeah, but for me the book as well was one of the things that really inspired me writing it. I wanted to document this moment, contemporary Lagos, millennials, how we're living our lives, especially as like diasporans, and then they went back home and like capturing what's happening in Nigeria as well. And this came from an interview I'd had with one of the people I was interviewing on my blog. He is a photographer, and at that time I hadn't really started taking my photography seriously, and I was just like really awed by what he was doing. He was traveling to different like African countries and really documenting um the places in a way that I hadn't seen at that time, because when it came to photography, lots of people I had seen and were popular in Nigerian photography communities were mostly doing like weddings or events, but he was more like a documentary photographer, and I was like, wow, I hadn't seen that before. And so during that interview I had asked him, like, why did you choose this path in photography? And he had said, because we had lost so much from history, right? Like our stories weren't documented. And for him, this is what he could do, the here and now, to document what life looks like for us on the continent. And it was actually listening to that interview that sort of spurred me. I was like, oh my goodness, I love that. What can I do myself as a writer? Which is why my novel is about these three characters and what they go through. But really, it's a tool to tell the story of contemporary Lagos. And yeah, I don't know why I'm saying all of this now. Oh yeah, so the reason, so for me, it's like archiving and documenting, what's happening in the here and now. Because for me, really, I think what I would love is 100 years from now, when I'm long gone and our generation is gone as well, those who come, after us. I want to understand what the 2000s was like, what being a millennial was like, they can read this book, because I would love to think, the world would have changed 100, 200 years from now, right? So they can have this archive of, it's fiction, but it's very much grounded in reality and what's happening. And I put hints of things that was happening that period as well. And I think anyone who is quite perceptive and like really um di dives deep into things would realize the period in history I was actually talking about, because there are lots of clues there.
So it's a historical, excuse me, historical novel, and it sounds like a love letter or a present that you're leaving
Yeah.
for future generations. I think that's beautiful, and I'm so what's the name? Do you remember? Is he because I want to include it in the show notes. The photographer who inspired you. He does he have a website? People can get inspired as
Um,
well.
yeah, we're not so much in touch, but I'm sure I can easily just research it and find him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because
Maybe
that's a
from
wonderful
there.
story. I wonder, does he know that he inspired you? Does he know about your
Yeah, 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 I did tell him. I think he was surprised though. I don't know if he believed me, but I did tell him. Yeah.
That's good, and that's a no for everybody. You never know who you're going to touch or influence,
Mm.
and I know you have with your book and this story. Okay, so how did you? Okay, so photography. Who gave you your first camera? You said you weren't taking it seriously then. You decided to take it seriously, and then give me the connection with the boudoir photos as well.
Yeah. So with photography and my first camera, I wasn't given. I found a camera at home, gathering dust. I can't even remember if it was in the drawer
Okay.
somewhere. And so I just picked it up. This was when I was like, I must have been 14 in Lagos. And yeah, I just picked it up. I was like, oh wow, we have this at home. And went to like the local photography person and bought some roles, film roles. And yeah, just started using it. So I started taking it to like secondary school. During that period, it was getting leading up towards the end of secondary school for me. And I just had this thing in my head where I was like, I would love to take so many pictures. And when I'm like retired in old age, I'll just have this lots and lots of albums I can just look back on. I've always been that kind of person that sort of thinks ahead and like tries to do something.
Already nostalgic. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
nostalgic even at
yeah,
14.
exactly. Yeah. And so yeah, so I was just doing that and it was just fun. And because to be honest, I also love taking pictures. So it was also something where I could take pictures of people and I'll ask someone to take picture of myself as well. So yeah, I was just doing that. I would go to church, take pictures there with friends, whatever. And so when I moved to the UK, I just still had that camera, and then I bought another camera when I was going to, no, I came and then I started using my mom's camera. And then when I was off to university, I bought my own camera. And it was just the same thing as well, taking pictures during my university days on Freshers Week, with the friends I made, and would go out a lot to like clubbing, events. I was just doing a lot of that anyway. So all of that was just really fun and me just documenting stuff. And then it was when I started writing and then I had that blog. And during that period, I was a bit older then. And so I started traveling. And so because I had that blog, okay, so what happened is I had that blog and I realized, okay, I didn't just want text on the blog because the way the blog was designed and everything, I needed some images. And then that's when I started looking into images and going on Google and then quickly realizing, no, you can't just download any person's photos from Google and put it on your website. You quickly get in trouble and get sued that way. So I was like, oh, okay.
Quickly.
I
Yeah.
need to start taking pictures. And so when I would travel, I would just take lots of landscape and things I found interesting so I could use it to accompany the blog pieces I was writing. But as I started doing that, traveling more, it was no longer just me documenting or just pointing and shooting and just taking pictures on a whim. My attention started being drawn to like the art of it, the composition, the colors. And so that's where that idea of like photography as an art form started coming in through that blogging. And then, yeah, and then Instagram was a thing. And I was like, okay, people don't like to read. But if I put a nice picture, they will stop scrolling, look at the picture, and hopefully they read what I've said in the caption. So I started doing some
I'm
fashion.
laughing because it's so true. Either you love to read, but when you're right, when you're in social media, you're not trying to read all the things. The picture gets
Exactly.
to it.
Exactly. So I started doing some, fashion content, and people were like, so I would go to those events I was talking about, where I was more doing interviews and I was doing some fiction short stories on my blog at the time. But when I would say, oh, I'm a writer, I blog, they'd be like, oh, you're a fashion blogger, right? And people would just always, I was like, oh,
And
okay. It seems
you're
I
like,
have
yeah,
good style, so let me use that. So that sort of deterred me a bit, though, I must say. In some ways, I wish I hadn't done that. So I started going towards more like fashion pictures to like draw people. But then yeah, it took me on a tangent. And I think because of the way building a community works, it would have been good for me to stick a bit more with my fictional storytelling because that way, when I had my book, I would have had a community of readers following me and not people interested in my fashion sense. But I think things
yeah,
happen the way they do, and yeah, it's totally fine.
that's
So
okay. Please continue.
yeah, I just remembered because I need to link to Boudoir, right? The story's a bit long. And so through that blog and through traveling and through now seeing photography as art, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should take this seriously. I don't want to just do it on a whim and for fun. Let me actually learn because all the while I had this DSLR ad then eventually bought, but I was still using all the automatic settings. I didn't know how to, use any of the manual, the professional settings. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need to like learn this properly, see if I can get a hang of it, see if I actually enjoy it and would like to, do something with it. And once I did that,
We're back. Yeah.
so once I did that, so I bought like a book on my camera model. I started learning on YouTube,
Yeah.
how to do the settings, how to edit and all of that. I got myself the Lightroom software. And then after practicing a lot, using my younger sister as well, the next step was like to like, work with other people. And through all of that, anyway, I realized I actually really love taking portraits of people and I enjoy it. And so I started using that as a means to tell visual stories as well. Because with my book, it had taken so long and, a couple of years to like get it going, write the book, try to get a book deal, and then get it published. I was like, but if I did visual stories, it was all in my control. I could just, do the shoots, edit them, and publish it on my blog because for me, I just wanted to tell stories. I just wanted to talk about things, happening around me, things I was thinking about without having to wait for all these institutions to buy in. So I started doing that. And through that as well, I was like, it wouldn't be bad to actually make money because the camera is there. And so I started like, working with people and people paying me to like take pictures of them. And then I guess at some point I realized I love this so much. I don't want to keep applying for jobs and, going into the 9 to 5 when my mind is constantly thinking about the ideas I have. How can I make this, sustainable business, profitable business where I can pay myself? And so I started researching the different sort of genres in photography. And at the time, what I thought was like, weddings, go into weddings, people pay a lot for weddings. You can make a full-time income from weddings. But because of my personality and my energy levels, in terms of, so not energy in terms of physical energy, but more like my spiritual energy, it doesn't
I
go with
get
like
it.
the
Yeah.
fast-pacedness of weddings. And I'm an introvert, to like having to pull people to, it just seemed,
It would
I
have been
don't
a nightmare.
yeah, I don't want to take myself too much out of my comfort zone just because I wanted to make a full-time income from photography. So through my research anyway, I stumbled upon boudoir and learning more about it and how it helps people and empowers them and helps them feel good and embrace their body. All of a sudden, it just clicked and I was like, this is what I love to do anyway with my work. Always wanting to inspire people, empower people, make people to see themselves as, they can be the best versions of themselves. And I'd also done like a photo shoot personally for myself and on my 25th birthday when I felt like I need to stop saying, oh, my body, I want it to be something other than what it is. Because I would
Hmm.
look back at all the pictures that I taken years ago and I'll be like, you actually look good. You looked okay. You
Yeah.
were fat. Why were you worried? And so I was just like, the society we live in is just constantly telling us something other than what we are. And I realized what I had done, although it wasn't boudoir, but it was like more of a body positivity shoot. And I was like, I remember feeling great, feeling, amazing about myself and happy I had done that and come to a place where I had some peace about my body and understanding, learning that that's what boudoir helped people to do. I was just like, this is perfect. I can actually do this. And, it focuses on women. And I feel
Yeah.
like as women, we're amazing. We do so much in society, but we don't even get half of that back. And I'm just like, I want women to like harness their power more. And I think through having self-love and going on their own journeys to that self-acceptance would really help them to do that. And that's how boudoir came into it. Yeah.
So, wow. Thank you. And that's why you're here,
Yeah.
because you discovered all of those wonderful things. Now, people may think boudoir means what? Does boudoir have a negative connotation or is it misunderstood? Or what does boudoir mean to you?
Yeah, I think on the surface level, without sort of understanding people's reasons or people's, what has moved them to do boudoir. You just see it as a woman in a lingerie. And because when you look in the media, that's always like objectifying women or using us to sell products, right? But with boudoir, it's taking that power back and finding pleasure within yourself. It's not about the male gaze. It's not about like, any other person, materialism or whatever. It's like, no, women, we're always, it almost seems like our bodies is for someone other than us. But with
Yep.
boudoir, it's like saying no, I want to actually accept myself. Yes, there may be parts I do not love, but that's totally fine. And on the whole, this body carries me through the world and I need to appreciate it. I need to embrace it, both the good and the bad, and like feel great being here in my body. And through that, nurturing that self-love, because I really believe everything starts with that self-love, how we see ourselves. If you see yourselves as this amazing person, if someone walks up to you and tries to give you something subpar, you look at them like, excuse me, who do you think you're talking to, right? Whether
Hmm.
it's in romantic relationships, whether it's in friendships, even at the workplace, there's some things you just won't stand for because you have that high standards. Because sometimes I get this question like, oh, maybe you're too picky and stuff. And it's like, it's not even as if I'm picky, it's just who I am. I know who I am, right? I'm happy in myself, and there's some things I just wouldn't go for because that's just beneath me. And I believe it's because I have this self-love. And it's not saying I'm better than other people, it's just saying I am great, I am good as I've been created. And yeah, so for me, boudoir is all of those things, just getting you, because once you accept yourself, once you love yourself, you may be like, okay, maybe I don't like this thing particular thing about my body, but on the whole, I'm like a worthy being, I'm valuable, I am loved, I'm worthy to be here. So no matter how I look, no matter how my body takes shape, no one else is better than me. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else, but I just am. And through that, you start to move through the world in like a much more confidence place. You have more courage to do things, to ask for what you're worth, to not take crap, from other
Mhm.
people. And so for me, it's just from that having that strength within, accepting yourself and moving through the world in that way.
Now, thank you so much. And you just laid down a bunch of affirmations I'm going to try to remember and repeat. I am worthy. My body is, you said, created something that you said. Okay, I know you said I'm worthy, but something I accept. You didn't say this, but it makes me want to say this. I accept my body as I am. You said
Yeah.
something about how you were created. I'm created this way. I think those are very powerful statements. And you say them, they just flow off your tongue. So maybe you don't even realize like that you've empowered them so much. But I think those are powerful affirmations that anyone needing to heal or who has been criticized or has any type of self-doubt or has been body shamed. I've always been thin. I come from a thin family, and I can remember boyfriends like, "Oh, you're so cute." I can't remember what the terms are then, but if you only gain 10 pounds, yeah, 10 pounds more, things like that, or society has no problem saying horrible things to fat people. Same thing for skinny people. I've had people ask me, "Are you anorexic? Are you bulimic?" And I'm like, I had to look those words up, right? I had to go. I remember the first time I saw that or was asked that. And then when you hear it again, you're like, okay, who's asking me this? And you're like, is this coming from a place of worry? Are they worried for me? But I'm like, people who really know me know I eat,
Yeah.
right? And know that I'm not running to, they see my father, they know my mother, they see our whole family, they know my, so society, so just to say, so it took me years to be comfortable with my little
I can
skinny
imagine.
leg. Yeah. And I can
Yeah.
remember saying, you know what? Because they're skinny, they're bow-legged, knobby knees, you can have all kinds of funny things to say about yourself. But then one day realizing, you know what? They take you everywhere you need to go. That was one thing you said, my body carries me through life.
Yes,
They,
exactly.
yeah, they take me where I need to go, where they help me run to good things, run from bad things. So that it may seem like a little thing, but it's not. So just
Yeah.
being able to have a picture taken by someone like you who wants me to love what I see, you show me my prints and feel good about myself can be life changing. I
Yeah.
mean,
It really is, and it's
right?
healing for a lot of people because I mean, I've worked with hundreds of women now where during the photo shoot, I turn the camera around and show them the back of the camera, and they're like shocked and amazed. They're like, "What? Is that me? No way. I haven't seen myself like this before." I've had some people like, "What have you done to these pictures? That can't be." I'm like,
Exactly.
"No, I've literally just taken it. I haven't even edited it, nothing. You're seeing the raw food, like, the raw image." And as soon as that happens, I can just see their confidence start to grow right there in front of my eyes because most people come in nervous, and I can understand that, of course, it's an intimate photo shoot. Most people do this in their lingerie or robes. So it's like almost, you have all these bottled up emotions about how you feel about yourself and your body, and now you're almost bearing it for someone you don't know to like see it. So there's all of that nervousness that they come with. But as soon as like, they go through the process because my service also includes like hair and makeup. So getting them pampered and glammed and they're starting to already feel good about themselves and the process, and they're calming down a bit. But there's still some people that the still waiting for the photo shoot itself still gives them that nerves. But the first few images, once I take it and show them, and they're like, oh wow, I actually look incredible. And I can just see the way they just move their body and carry their body now. I can see that confidence. When I tell them, oh, turn your head this way, there's no that nervousness of, oh, am I doing this right? I already see them to just turn. And there's this thing I always say that helps like calms the face and gives you that serene and really just soulful look on your face. Is like to close your eyes and just tilt your head in a particular way, and then you just patch your lips open slightly like you're breathing in through your mouth. And as soon as I'm like, close your eyes, they just do it immediately. They just like pat the lips a bit. I'm like, there we go. I don't even need to tell you anymore. Like they're already
Yeah.
understanding the flow of how I work and how I want them to move. And it's just beautiful seeing that, seeing that coming through. And then I would have some people on the way home or the next morning, they'll message me and be like, I was on a high going home. Thank you so much. I feel great. I'm excited. And it just almost feels like they have this new lease of life, right? So it's very healing. And I think the way we see ourselves especially really matters. And when you think about the mirror, so the mirror actually doesn't show you the true version of yourself because it's actually the other way around in a mirror. But photographing yourself, having a picture of yourself is the closest you can see yourself. And that's almost like the truest view of yourself, of what your loved ones see you. Because I'm sure people would have, their husbands or partners, tell them, oh, you're beautiful, you're fine as you are, but they don't still believe it. But they come to this session and this stranger who has taken these pictures of them, and because with the way I work, they get to see the images on the same day, not retouched yet. So you're seeing yourself. I haven't done any like, the fine touches and whatever on the image. And they're just like, wow, that is me. And you can see them already carrying themselves with that confidence. So yeah.
Okay, so I've been crying, sniffling. You moved me to tears because that's just everything to me. I am that person that hasn't had that body, that's been told your body should be different,
Mm.
and that's even been sexually violated, so I have a lot of body trauma and stuff. So the healing that you offer really resonates with me. And I want to know our listeners to know how they can experience that with you. Now, obviously, or maybe not, this is in person. I mean, I know this is 2024 and we lived through the pandemic, but you're offering this is for people in the UK that can, or anywhere in the world that can come in and fly to your studio, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And
Right.
where is that?
So my studio is based in Hackney, which is in East London, and with my service, it's a full photography service, meaning that hair and makeup is included. Everything else is taken for you. Literally, you just need to turn up. So I don't offer lingerie or whatever clothing they would like to wear. They can come in with that, but I do have some other accessories, luxury robes, props that they can use to like enhance the session. So yeah, just come with the outfit you'd love to wear and everything else will be taken care of for you.
And how long is do you book a session for?
Yeah, so it's like a 4 hours experience because we start with the hair and makeup. That tends to take like an hour, 30 minutes. And then after that, we start the photo shoot. They're able to change into 3 different outfits. If they do want to change into more than 3, that's totally fine as well. We can add that on. And so that would usually take like another hour, 30 minutes. And then there's a short break where I sort of upload the images, get them ready in a gallery, and then after about 20, 25 minutes, they're able to view all the images. And yeah, see their beautiful images and then select on like, their favorite ones they would love to purchase. I also offer like luxury albums, print boxes, wall art, different like types, frame types, choices. It's very customizable when it comes to the products. And yeah, then we just take it from there and get all of that ready for them.
And is this exclusively for women?
So it's not exclusively for women. I've worked with men in the past and I've done a few couples shoot, but for me, I focus on empowering women, right? Other people as well, because I also understand like while women are we are heavily socialized in a way that makes us challenge our bodies and have doubts. I know men have some of those things for themselves when it comes to masculinity. So I'm totally finding like, helping to empower everybody, male, female, non-binary, on that journey. But I do focus on women, and that's sort of how I market the business, but I'm open to work with everyone.
Okay. And I wanted to say something you said earlier I thought was extremely brave. So you quit um your job to work and live off your savings and then work and live off your savings. I mean, that's brave, right? I mean, society tells us that's crazy, right? We need to have
Yeah.
security. And so
It was
what was your family saying?
it was a crazy decision, but you know what? With me, it sounds crazy, but I do take calculated risks. I take risks, but they are calculated in some ways. So I was quite young then. And luckily for me, I didn't go through that period of after university where you're looking for a job and whatever, because I'd been writing for that company from my second year in university. It just carried on to my third year and afterwards. And so I'd been saving money. And so at that time, I think by then I was 23. And so I thought to myself, okay, because I was like, you're in this unique, amazing position where my friends had graduated and looking for their first jobs. And it was quite difficult at the time because people want you to have 3 years experience. And it's like, I've just graduated. Where's the experience coming from? So I, on the other hand, had this job. So I'm like, are you gonna, and it was a creative job as well, which I loved. And I got to travel with that job as well. I'm like, it's almost like you have it so good and you want to let this go. Well, I said to myself, I was like, okay, you're 23. If you quit this job, it's terrifying. And I don't know, what next would happen. But really, at that time, I had what, let's say 40 plus years to retirement. I'm like, are you really saying in the next 40 years, I'm not going to get another job? I'm going to be jobless for the next 40 years. That's not possible. I will find something. So I had to do that. But another thing that really actually inspired me to just go for it, and it's a bit of a dark one, which we don't tend to like to talk about as humans, which is death, right? And for me, death has inspired me in different phases of my life. And I'll give those two examples where it's really made a big decision for me. So the first was during that period when I finally decided I was going to leave, go back to Lagos for 3 months to do the research for this book. There were these two sisters I had grown up with. They were literally my neighbors. So I grew up in an apartment building and they were just like a flat away from me and they were a bit younger than me. So I would take them out, I had like babysat them and stuff like that. And I got news they had died in an accident, a
Oh,
car crash. It was
uh,
terrible.
together,
Yes. And their mom actually. Only,
devastated, the
only
whole
the son,
family.
yeah, only the son and the father
Mm.
survived. And I was just, it was traumatic. I couldn't believe it. These two young people I had, grown up knowing and having this close relationship with. And I was just like, what is this life then? You know? And for me, how that inspired me was like, I almost feel like, so when people close to me and loved one die, I feel like I see it almost like a race, a relay race. It's like they're gone, they've passed on the baton. So they've passed on this baton. What am I doing with this baton, right? Am I
Wow.
just here living in fear and worry and not making the best of life? Or am I going to tell them, you're gone, but I'm going to make you proud of me. I'm going to do something out of this time that I still have left that you unfortunately don't have. So I was just like, this
Mm.
story is in my head. This is what I see. I feel I'm being called to do. I can stay in this job, which is safe and still creative and fine, but I'm gonna be tormented by this calling of what I should actually be doing. So I just had to go. So that was the first instance. The second instance was when you remember I said I had written for 4 months. the funds started dwindling. So I went back into work and it was just so difficult for me to juggle both. And this was in 2017. I don't know if you heard about the Grenfell Towers in London. There was this two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working at that time. It wasn't even, I just found a job. It was just like an administrative job. I just needed something to make money. And I'd been there for a bit longer than I thought I would be. At that time, it was maybe 4 months. And I just woke up one morning and it was like this apartment buildings were on fire. People died. Some people were jumping off trying to save
I
themselves.
lived in England at the time. I was
Oh,
watching
did
it on the
you?
BBC. Yeah, when it was happening, it
Yeah.
was horrible.
Very horrible, but there again, it just told me you're in this job which you hate, doing the same thing over and over again. You're not learning anything new. You're just like a cog in the machine. And you have this book which you need to finish and you need to continue on this path. And again, it was like, I can literally wake up tomorrow and be gone. So do I want to be gone doing something I love doing, something I feel it's a purpose that's gonna like help other people? Or do I want to wake up and be gone? And I was gone hating what I'm doing right now. Because at that time I was just so fed up of the job. At that 3, 4 months mark, you've learned all you needed to do about the administrative part. And right now it's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I'm not and I'm the sort of person I love to be inspired. I love to be learning something new. There has to be a reason for me being there. And I'm just like, because I've always lived in apartments. I'm like, I could have woken up this morning and be gone, and I'll be gone hating my predicament. So I was like, no. I'd rather, if I'm gonna be gone tomorrow, I'm gonna be gone knowing that there was no regrets. I was doing everything I could in that time to live through my truest self. And so I left that job and went back to
Did you just
writing.
quit on the spot? Did you give proper notice?
So like I said, I always try to be a bit reasonable because I'm like, you want to do this, but don't just be sensible and throw all cautions to the wind. So I did tell them, oh, can I go down to part-time? They said no. So I was like, okay, that's it then. I tried
You're
because
like,
it's either
shoot, thank you.
part-time,
Because
so
you
I
know
can,
what? You're like, universe, thank you. You know what? Because I'm trying to halfway creep out.
yeah.
Nope. You're like, so you were like, okay, bye. But that still means they knew you didn't just walk out the door, or did you?
Oh no, no. So it was then like a 2 weeks notice. So it was like first sending the
Okay.
email, oh, can I go down to part-time and seeing how that would work? And they were like, nope, we need you here full-time. And I was like, okay. Then it's adieu.
Wow, brave and no looking back. Okay. Now, in addition to your boudoir services and your writing, is there anything else our readers need to know about you that maybe you can offer them as well?
Yeah, so I'm currently I have an exhibition running. So while I work in boudoir now, if you recall, what really spurred me to like do photography seriously was I wanted to tell visual stories, right? And so for me, with this part of my work, it's still very much about empowering people, inspiring people. And so I had during the pandemic again, like I said, I'm always observant, always reflective. And it was just we all know how traumatic the pandemic period was, apart from, COVID-19, killing people in the droves. We also had all of the social upheaval. We have, what happened in the US, with George Floyd, we had with Breonna Taylor, all of those things happening. And there were just some days that was so dark. And I'm just like, and I think in the UK as well, the way racism works here is totally different. It's so insidious. You actually don't realize until you're properly investigating some of your experiences and you're like, this is crazy. So anyway, there were some mornings I was just like, what is this life? What is this world? I think the George Floyd one was the really shaker because you hear
Wasn't it brutal? And
exactly.
you had to watch that video
I
of
never could
him
have watched
dying.
that video to the end. I just saw a bit of it. But it was like this man is on the ground. You've handcuffed him. He's no danger to you. Why is your knee on his neck? And he's saying, I can't breathe. So it was almost like, what else can a black person do If we move, you're like, oh, we thought he was gonna bring a gun. If he runs, oh, he was running or
Exactly.
coming to attack me. He's on the ground. At this point, harmless. So what else could he have done to save his life? How else could he have saved his life? It
In
was
a
just
way,
shocking and
I just thought
mind-boggling.
about it. It's mind-boggling, but I just thought about it in a way. It's a little Shakespearean. What a tragic
And it was in
event.
light. People were filming. I was just like, if you're not even worried about witnesses, what has this world come up to? So anyway, it was just a dark period, and there were days I just couldn't work. And because as a creative anyway, I wasn't in the essential industry. So during the lockdown in the UK, we couldn't work. I was just at home out of work, not making money. And but even if I could work, I couldn't have worked then because I was just like, how can I exist in this world? How can I wake up and say I'm going to work for someone making money when all of this is happening? Like, yeah, it's miles away, but anyone who is being traumatized and who is being, persecuted for being Black, it's affecting me because if I was there, it would just be me. It makes no difference. Before I open my mouth to speak and you hear my accent, whether I'm American or not, all you see is a Black person, right? So yeah, so I was just like, wow. But then during my reflections, started to dawn on me like, yeah, you can't work, but there's some people still going out to work every day. This is their jobs, they're bus drivers, train drivers, they're people delivering posts, they're people at the supermarkets, coming in contact with thousands of people. So apart from this craziness happening socially, there's this virus that is, being passed around and they're putting their lives at risk. So anyway, I just had this idea that I really wanted to like learn from frontline workers, key workers who had like, played pivotal roles during the pandemic to like, just keep
Vital. Yeah.
us going. And so I came up with the ideas for women on the front lines. And so this project is about, so I was able to get 10 women from different industries, like from NHS workers, which are like healthcare workers here, funeral services, postal workers, train driver, bus driver, education, and some other fields. And yeah, so I, interviewed them, learned about the experiences, how did it affect them mentally, psychologically, what was their physical realities like? And again, to really celebrate these women, because I feel like as women, we have so many roles, right? They are workers when they're outside, but in the home, they could be, caretakers, childminders, they're taking care of older parents if that was the case for them. So we're constantly juggling all these plates. So how was that time for them? Because for me as a single woman, there was just some days that were so bleak. So I can't imagine juggling all these other things. And so this project really celebrates them as well. And I believe in giving women their flowers while they're here, because I've worked on other projects where it's like we're celebrating heroines from the past 100 years ago who are just only now being recognized. But I'm like, no, the pandemic just happened and people did incredible things. Can we like, celebrate them now, give them their flowers now while they're here and alive and can, feel that and yeah, and enjoy that. So that project finally launched this month and it started running on the 2nd of March till the end of March. It's running at Okoh Street Studios by Lock at 21 Okoh Street in London. So yeah, that's my latest project as well.
Congratulations. That sounds amazing. Give them their flowers while they can accept them.
Yes, exactly.
Well done. So okay, so the exhibit, we'll see their pictures. How will we read about their stories? Is that included somehow?
So, because it's still an ongoing exhibition, I don't have all of the stories out online yet, but I've been on different publications where they've interviewed me about it. And so if that's something you'd like some links, I can share that with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we can't get there in person,
Yeah.
um, we can still with
Yeah.
these heroes. Okay. Well, my heart is full, and I'm so appreciative for all the work you're doing and everything you shared with us today. I'll make sure to share all your links in the show notes. And know that you have a fan over here in Sweden.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank you so much
welcome.
for having me. This has been like a really lovely conversation as well. It's always interesting going back through the years and remembering everything that has led me to where I am now. But I think it's quite important to reflect on all of that as well.
Absolutely. And not only were you inspiring, I can't wait to see what you're going to do next. So, Black Women in Europe blog and podcast will be following you, and we'll have this episode up as time for people to make sure they can get to your exhibit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks again for today. I'm just going to stop the recording so we can say a proper
I was gonna say,
goodbye.
well, there's a second part to this project.
Oh, tell.
Like, that's definitely coming up as well. And this I'll be focusing on Black women. And again, looking at life during the pandemic, women during the restrictions here in the UK, women had to go into childbirth, labor without
Oof.
any partner or birthing
Mm,
companion. And I feel like society does terrible things to women, during one of the most vulnerable times in a woman's life, and there's no
mm,
one around you to support you, to advocate for you, knowing very well, how we're treated in the healthcare system. So it did come out in 2021 that women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth compared to white women. And during
mm.
that period, they wouldn't let anyone. So yeah, so again, this second part of this project will be, I'm in the process of like, doing a call out to get women volunteers who would love to talk about their experience, who gave birth during 2020 and 2021 without a birthing companion. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Childbirth under the best conditions is dangerous. uh, Life dangers, can be deadly. Wow. Okay, that's an important story that needs to be told. I'm so glad you're telling it.
Yeah.
So, okay, thanks for that preview, that sobering preview of that important topic. And it's being discussed, I know, in the United States as well, as far as the death rate for Black women in the US is atrocious,
Mm.
maybe similar to what you stated in the UK during the pandemic, but those numbers seem to be with us, pandemic or not.
Yeah, no, so
And a lot.
that's not just during the pandemic, that's just in
Mm,
general.
okay. Okay. So, so
So the project is looking at women who gave birth during the pandemic,
got
but the statistics is in general, Black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth.
okay. I'm disheartened to hear that that's the case in the UK as well, because I know um, in the US it's dire. So I do support March of Dimes as an organization
I don't know why
that
my
I'll.
Google is talking. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I wasn't sure if it was a dog barking, and I wouldn't have been surprised. And I hop up on you. But yeah, March, you bring up something important that we can end with. March for Dimes. I don't know if it's also in the UK, but I believe their research has shown globally focuses on preventing mothers dying in death,
Mm.
and they highlight the statistics of Black women. That's appalling. So, okay, so sisters in the UK and the US, when you're pregnant, make sure you have an advocate for you. What would you recommend? First, briefly, have an advocate for you. Make sure you get good prenatal care. Consider alternatives. I know doulas
Yeah.
are big, but put together a care team because, as you say, it's one of the most important things in your life. We want you to be safe. So, Liz, thanks for bringing that up.
Mm.
That's another important topic. So thank you for your groundbreaking work. No one else is giving these people their flowers. No one else is caring about this type of work. So thank you for that and for helping us heal through art and self love.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, we hope you
Shut up
enjoyed that
and sit
episode from
down.
season 4, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, be well.
Shut up and sit down.